Alright, so first up we have 3 of the 1 cost raise max. So talk to us a little bit about the decision making on why you chose 3 quantities instead of maybe 4.
Yeah, so a total of, I'm playing a total of 7, minus 3k reducers. I think this deck space is like kind of tight in this deck, so I think 7's a good number. There's a lot of tech slots in my deck with a lot of 2 of, and I found that was a spot to make room for.
Next up we have 4 of the 1 cost Gordon. So just as you said, you have a total of 7 minus 3k options in the deck. It's going to be 3 race max and 4 Godins. Now, some builds out there typically range from maybe a 3-3, so 6 total, or a 4-3, in your case 7, or sometimes maybe even maxed out to 4-4, which is 8. Has 7 total been a proficient experience for you? Would you say 7 is just the right amount, and perhaps 8 isn't necessary? 6 is too low, or was the deck list a bit too tight?
Yeah, the deck list is pretty tight, but I think 7's good. You should seed enough, like, math-wise, like, hopefully at least like once or twice a game. I didn't draw it a couple times, but that's just how the game goes. But yeah, I think 7's still good, even without drawing it a couple games.
Gotcha. The next up we have 3 of the 1 cost Otamas. Now most of the builds that I've actually been seeing, people tend to either pick a ratio of 3 or 4. Could you tell us maybe experience why 3 has been your choice? Is this also another case of trying to fit more space for other cards in the deck as well?
Yeah, I wanted to fit in the 2k counter Sanji, so yeah, I felt like that was a good spot to just minus out of 1 Otama.
Yeah, I got you. So next up we do have 2 of those 2 cost Sanjis that you mentioned. Now let's talk a little bit about this card, because the Sanji seems to be something that I've only particularly seen in the upper echelon of law players run, that typically top and do well, whereas the rest seem to just cut it out completely. Now beyond just the fact that it is a 2k counter, is this card a meta call? The strategy of decks starving, or rather certain decks or players starving a lot of players specifically? This is kind of like the go-to answer when that situation happens, or is there something else happening here?
Yeah, no, it's mainly when you're getting starved by Enel. I feel like Enel got a pretty decent buff in EBO1 with the addition of Reiju, just the 5-cost ace from the starter deck. So I feel like this was a good pick just to play around Gadatsu mainly in the early game. Your whole deck is mainly 4 costs, so being able to take a life and go to 3 is really important in the early game, so your 4 costs can stick and you can push for cards out of their hand.
The next up we got 3 of the 3 cost Shuraiyas. Now in many cases people typically love to put this at 4, but we decided to do just 3 of them. Would you say this is kind of like one of your deck's expressions on how you don't necessarily believe it having to run staple 4? Or was this yet again just gotta make space for other side cards?
Yeah, so I think I originally played with 4 as well, because like in theory this card sounds amazing, right? Like you're clearing your opponent's whole board every turn at best case, and they're only swinging with leader, so being able to match the leader swing and only giving out 1 card and a 1k counter sounds really good. This card is like almost unplayable against like Sakazuki, because 3 costs are so easily reduced to Handblaze range due to leader ability. And yeah, it was just dying too often. Yeah, it's really useful against like the Yamato matchup, and maybe it blacked out Luffy a lot actually. I didn't think I was going to see those matchups a whole lot due to their being unfavored in most of the meta matchups, so I thought 3 was just fine. Good enough.
Hey, gotcha. The next up we got 4 of the 4 costs Kid and Killer. Now let's be honest, this card is a 4 ratio staple. There shouldn't be much to talk about on why it's obviously good. So rush 5k body that gives himself a 7k swing when the opponent is 2 or less life. However, I actually do want your opinion on something relating to this card. Now I know you firstly played red purple a lot in the past before they've acquired the EBO1 buff, that being Bonclay and Killer Kid. Could you tell us just exactly how huge of an impact this card has made for this deck? How it's affected its aggro pressure in closing games, its position in the meta tier list before and after the ban list, so Sakazuki running around with Great Eruption and Yellow's Reject. Talk to us a little bit about why this card is deservingly a 4 staple.
Oh yeah, this card's amazing. I played a lot of red purple LOL in OPO5. I was trying to solve the deck, but it was just missing that little bit of push needed for the Enel matchup, and just not having a lot of Dawn to work with in some matchups, just having a free 7k swing. It's just everything this deck needs. Honestly, if you see like 1 or 2, the Enel matchup is like, even while getting starved and no Sanji, like pretty beatable. So yeah, I mean obviously this card's amazing. It's Sakazuki too. 7k rush, they have to respond to it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just amazing card.
Gotcha. And would you say this also practically just bumped up the red purple law strength and probably the tier list as well, or did it kind of like somewhat stay the same?
Oh yeah, this is an amazing card. This makes like the deck like playable. I don't think red purple law was that good before EB.
And then next up we got 2 of the 3 cost rush Zoros. Now before red purple law had access to Kid and Killer, rush Zoros were seemingly something people ran at 3 to 4 ratios. Now it seems people here are having to decide between a 4-2 or 4-3 setup. I've even seen people actually cut rush Zoros with the 4 Kid Killers. But in your case, you run 2, making that 6 total rushes in the deck. Can you tell us the mindset behind just why 2 Zoros is enough when paired with 4 Kid Killers? Do you believe red purple law should still run the rush Zoros regardless of the Kid Killers? Or are there potentially arguments to be made that Kid Killer replaces Zoro? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the Zoros are mainly for the Sakazuki matchup. Like with the deck that can like probably full clear your board every turn, having a body that can just swing on play is super huge. So I just added those in, have an answer when I'm having no board. So maybe when Sakazuki gets banned, I'd probably take this out for a different 3-cost slot, because our 3-cost slot in the deck is pretty like subpar if we're going first curve. So maybe a Zoro Drew would replace it. But for now, the rush is really good. And yeah, it was pretty useful.
And then next up we have 2 of the 4-cost Toy Laws. Now this one's got an interesting story to it. So this Toy Law, if I'm not mistaken, has seen lots of play going all the way back to OPO 5 and even OPO 6. So now this card seems the priority has changed. In a lot of decks and strategies, this card for a while seemed to be like a 4 ratio staple, but some builds putting it to 3. However, as Red Purple Lot gets, new cards to play with in each set, and especially EBO1. Do you think EBO1 was the main reasoning as to why this Toy Law is starting to be considered no longer a 4 ratio staple, and instead sometimes a 2 ratio, or sometimes people just cut this card entirely? Do you think this card still has to be played even just at 2 after EBO1, or is the reasoning more specific to the meta and what decks you're playing against in the tournament? Or once again, was this perhaps just another judgment call to make more space in the deck?
Yeah, I really think this card is only played for the Moria matchup because like seemingly unfavored. But I don't think I played it once the whole tournament. Honestly, like I think this card's terrible. I think I saw another like topping list on Twitter one time playing 4, but I just don't see the vision. You can basically only play it before you use your leader ability. So compared to every other card in this deck, basically, that's a 4 cost. It's only playable one way, and you can't use it on the other side of shambles, which is not the best, as we have so many cards that like do so many other things that we want to run. And yeah, I feel like my Moria matchup, I've gotten it to where I feel pretty confident, even without seeing Toy Law. I feel like rampers are more important, like Ein or Shachi Penguin. Yeah, this is probably coming out in any future iteration of the deck I make.
Gotcha. And then next up we got 4 of the 4-cost Vinsmoke Reijus. Now this card for sure, after its release, became a staple 4 ratio for the Red Purple Law deck. Do you think this card ultimately helped Red Purple Law's draw power issue it had before, or does the deck unfortunately still fall short to that same issue of not having the best search and draw power for consistency? Just how much does this deck really rely on Reiju alone for the draw power and consistency to keep pushing without running out of gas?
I think it's pretty good. I think I top decked it on stream one time when I like had no cards in hand, which helped refill and steer him away from going for game. So yeah, this card's good. Helps refill hand to counter out for your board in like mid to late game scenarios when you want to push and preserve board. Yeah, really good. It's a really pretty card. So I think this will be a staple in LoL forever. It definitely solves most of the drawing issues this deck has.
Gotcha. And then next we got 4 of the 4-cost Eins. Now this seems to be a staple choice in your build, as do most Red Purple Law decks now. Now of course this card is amazing for what it does for the deck, the guaranteed 1 Dawn to keep the Dawn management sufficient. But I am curious, I noticed in your deck list, your entire deck list actually, you chose not to run a specific card that almost a majority of Red Purple Law decks actually run. At various different ratios, but in your deck list you cut it out completely. That card being Beppo. Talk to us about why Beppo unfortunately did not make the cut for your list. Was it because the conditions for the Dawn ramp for Beppo was sometimes a miss? Is the guaranteed Dawn ramp from Ein that much more consistent and reliable than the potential ramp from Beppo when he swings? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, exactly. Beppo is useless in the mirror match, and you're only going to get 1 ramp off of it in most of the meta matchups because it'll die to any form of removal the next turn. Like Sakazuki's going to Houndblaze it, Moria's going to kill it with Absalom, etc. A really underrated play is like going slow with this deck is going second, playing Ein on turn 2, going to 7 Dawn on turn 3, not using leader ability on turn 2, allows for so many more like combo plays and sets you up for the rest of the game. So just that option there is like super huge for the deck. And I think that just makes it so much better than Beppo there.
Got you. And then since there is going to be a ban list and it's going to change when we're going to see Sakazuki, will that potentially change the case for Beppo? Or does EBO1 still kind of kick it out of the slot because there's just much better things for guaranteed ramp?
Yeah, no, I think when Saka gets banned, Red Purple Law is probably the best deck in the format. So with more Red Purple Law mirror matches, Beppo literally does nothing. So yeah, Ein should just stay here forever. Maybe playing both if you're feeling you don't have enough ramp. But yeah, 4 Ein should be a staple for every list going forward, I think.
Okay, gotcha. The next up, we got 4 of the 4-cost Mr. 2 Bonclay. Now, of course, this is another amazing card that came out of EBO1 that without a doubt became a 4 ratio staple. Would you say this card also played a role in why Beppo did not make the cut for the deck list, considering its guaranteed ramp capabilities? As well as, how is the impact of this card after EBO1? Were you able to take advantage of, the high drops from Geckos to Yamatos and other huge boss monsters? Or is this character mostly just a 5-6k swing in your matchups?
A little bit of both. I'd probably say 50-50. Like I talked about, the turn 2 ramp and just passing turn and going to 7 Dawn the following turn is just so good. And just saving this game before the Moria turns, maybe saving 2 in hand and playing both out to get a guaranteed like 9k swing the following turn is super good for pushing damage. Yeah, this card is super good. The only annoying part is I don't feel like it can swing. It's not worth swinging with it in maybe the turn 4 to 5 because they might have a weenie to clear it if you're clearing their bigger bodies. Yeah, that's the only downside about it. But yeah, the consistent ramp, which is active, is super huge. And yeah, helps a lot in the vertical matchups.
Okay, gotcha. Next up, we got 4 of the 4-cost Shachi Penguins. So there's 2 things to ask here and discuss. Now, of course, this is once again another staple 4 for the deck without question. It's the only card actually in the deck that nets you 2 Dawn instead of just 1. However, now that we have seen all the counters, we have 3 Otamas, 2 Sanjis, and 4 Shachi Penguins, which makes a total of 9 2K counters. As these 9 total 2K counters been enough for your defense game, Otama is a card I would assume you might summon maybe once to get that minus 2K, and Shachi for sure, you'd summon the card at least twice if you had the chance, which at that point does leave you with less 2K counters to use the rest of the game. Have you ever struggled with needing more 2K counters in the deck, as well as how crucial is it you need to see your Shachis in your hand? They typically try to mulligan and draw for, or is the deck going to suffer considerably if it doesn't see the Shachi?
I think this card's like only super necessary in like the Moria matchup, because the Moria matchup, you should pretty much be like, you kind of have to like summon 2 bodies a turn with leader ability, and that gets kind of hard, like kind of taxing on your Dawn management if you don't have any ramp cards. So like this card is probably more important to me in the Moria matchup over Reiju, or not Reiju, Toilaw for example. So yeah, besides that matchup, it's good, but not like super necessary. But yeah, the defense issue, honestly, like if I wasn't clearing board enough to the point where like I was like, I'm just gonna lose, I think I just deserve to lose the game. I was just hoping to find enough blockers or other forms of like reducers and summoning bodies just to make it so it's impossible for them to go to free game. So yeah.
Gotcha. So you feel like if you play the game smart and you play the pretty much removal game, you pretty much put them on the back burner defense so they can't really go on the offense. So that's why they kind of makes it so you don't have to have them in 2Ks. It's like they got to worry about your pressure instead of the other way around. And it seems like, as you said, Shachi seems to be pretty important in the Moria matchup, but not so much in the others, so it doesn't have that high priority.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's always good just to like ramp back to around 5 Dawn for the next turn. Or, yeah, really good card. You probably always play it, to be honest, unless you're like gonna die.
Next up, we got 2 of the 4-cost blocker laws. Now, since the meta you faced was the last bit of OP06 before the ban list, that means you've definitely faced a lot of decks that probably have a considerable amount of cards in their hand. Do you feel the 4-cost blocker was not necessary for the effect to rip 2 cards from their hand? Do you feel the effect maybe sometimes did not hit because of the red-purple law's aggro playstyle? Maybe they kept spending a bunch of resources to remove or counter, so the hand size didn't consistently reach above 7? Or is the main issue the fact that it messes with your Dawn management with the -1? Talk to us a little bit about why you chose this card to be just that 2 instead of maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, so the Dawn minus is like super bad, obviously. If like if you're using leader ability the same turn, it's like Dawn -4, and that's gonna set you back like really far for like the rest of the game, unless you like play a Penguin. I think hand rip is really crucial, especially like for the Enel matchup and maybe the Uta matchup. But yeah, I also found myself using this a lot against Sakazuki, kind of just like a putting at home, like on 3 Dawn going first. I would just swing 8. They take it because they don't want to give me 2 2Ks, and then they're gonna end their turn with around 7 or 8 cards. They play stage or something, and then I can hit with Law on 5 Dawn. It means I couldn't use leader ability, but just knocking cards out of hand is always good against Sakazuki. Such a combo reliant deck to clear board.
Okay, so you feel like this card actually did its job consistently, being able to rip cards out of their hand. It's just the only downside is -1, so as you said, it'd be -4.
Yeah, it's like putting at home basically.
And then next up we have 2 of the 5-cost Miss All Sundays. Now this one is pretty interesting and probably stands out most as a card that some people may not understand how good it actually is in the deck. Would you say this card, even just out of ratio 2, had some kind of maybe Japanese inspiration? This is a card that sees more play in the Japanese deck list versus maybe the Western deck list for red purple law decks. Tell us the idea of this card and just what it does exactly for the deck and why it's good enough to be a ratio 2.
Yeah, exactly. So I copied the Japan 3v3 winner, just trying it out. Honestly disappointed in myself that I never even thought of this myself, this card. Yeah, it's really good. It's a body that ramps me, replaces itself with a draw. It also has a trigger effect, which is that minuses me Dawn and can be really useful in the mirror match to restrict their Reiju draw ability. It didn't come up in the tournament at all. I only played 1 mirror match, but it's come up in practice before. So yeah, this card's really good. I'd probably bump it up to a 3 if I change my deck list at all. Yeah, probably the MVP of the whole tournament.
So next up we got 4 of the 5-cost kid. Now this is going to be the last set of staple ratio 4 for the deck. Now in terms of gameplay and from your experience, how crucial would you say it is that the opponent has to find a way to get rid of this blocker? You find yourself in many situations where this kid remains active and continues to farm you free Dawn actively. Do you feel like this card acts as kind of like a checkmate almost? In other words, if they don't remove it soon, your snowballing capabilities as law is going to progressively give you like a huge advantage. Can you tell us just exactly how strong this card is in the deck and what it's capable of if not removed?
Oh yeah, if this card sticks, you win the game. Like, if you lose the game with this card sticking, you did something wrong somewhere else. Yeah, this card fixes your Dawn for the rest of the game, and if your Dawn is fixed for the rest of the game, it's just like too many combo plays. Like a deck that like this deck, if it's removing board, flooding board, and having like the same amount of Dawn as like your opponent, basically, because it's not minusing as much, it's like impossible to lose. So yeah, 4 for sure, too good.
Then lastly, we have 3 of the 5-cost queens. Now, some builds out there actually might cut this card out completely, or maybe only run 2 of. However, you would pretty much put this, besides Reiju, is one of your only ways to dig and draw cards to see some sort of consistency. Would you say because of the lack of draw power and search in this deck is the reason why you have built this trinity of draw power, the 4 Reijus, 3 Queens, and 2 Sundays? Since Sunday also lets you draw 1 card as well. Are these 3 cards your main engine or draw power to pretty much keep the gas going? With all that being said, do you believe Queen for sure has to be in the deck, or at least potentially 3 or 4?
Yeah, Queen has to be in the deck. Drawing is like super good, especially in this meta. Like 5 costs are harder to respond to, as most Sakazuki players are playing the stage variant. Only really can respond to 4 costs in an easy way. So yeah, developing a body that replaces itself. Although it does Dawn minus, which can be taxing, as long as you manage your Dawn properly, it's like super efficient. Yeah, it gets rid of dead cards like Ein, for example. I don't need to ramp just 1 anymore. Maybe Rush Zoro, because that card's pretty useless sometimes. Super good. Yeah.
Then we're going to go into the different matchups, all of the round 9 that you pretty much faced. First one's going to be against Enel. Go ahead and talk about pretty much what do you think personally on this matchup? What do you think this matchup favors? What pretty much happened during this game? Was there anything you could kind of recollect? Any misplays or huge points that kind of got you the win? Go ahead and talk about this round 1.
Yeah, so my first Enel, if they're not starving you, the matchup is like pretty standard and pretty easy. So there is that. If they starve you, it gets a little bit trickier if you don't see like any like 5 cost or Sanjis, because your board is just dying to Kadatsu the whole game. So yeah, it can get a little tough, but EB definitely made it a lot easier just to like set up with like Bonclay and Kid Killer. Just like does efficient like non-Dawn using big swings, like tax their hand a lot more. So yeah, easier now, but still probably a little bit unfavored, and probably gives an edge to NL players that know what they're doing.
Gotcha. When did you say this NL player was skilled? If you were to be quite honest, how was the matchup feeling just beyond matchup in terms of player skill?
Well, he just didn't starve. So yeah, like I said, if they don't starve, the match was pretty easy.
The next we got round 2. Once again, you faced yet again another NL. So tell me a little bit about what happened in this matchup. Did they do the starving strategy? Did they do anything different? How did this matchup go?
Yeah, he starved, and it was honestly, I thought I might have lost, but he just didn't draw Yamato. No Yamato. And I saw 2 Kid Killer. It's just, I could just push cards out of his hand pretty easily. So it was pretty free.
Okay. So you definitely believe 100% in this matchup you have to starve Red Purple Law to have a higher chance of succeeding.
Yeah. Red Purple Law is such a combo intensive deck. It gets starved. It's like so hard. You have to be like, you have to draw really well to find all your combo pieces.
Okay, gotcha. The next up we have round 3. You actually face an Invonkov. I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea how this matchup typically goes. Talk to us about how this went down. What were your thought process going into this? And if you had any idea how to really kind of navigate this matchup.
Yeah, so honestly, like this matchup is pretty tough, I think, for Red Purple Law. They have Gravity Blade just to clear board. And if your hand is always seeing counters, just refilling is super annoying to break through because we don't have that much Dawn to work with. So yeah, drawing 4 with the new EB, I believe it's Inazuma, can get really annoying. I saw a lot of rush units, so I kind of taxed his hand like super heavy, which helped me win the game before his Invonkov turn, his 7-cost Invonkov. Yeah, I think he probably misplayed 1 turn playing Gravity Blade on my Gordon over body that could swing. So yeah, that was it. Okay.
And you think he might have costed the game just off of that play alone, or is there other stuff as well?
Yeah, that was probably like the pivotal point of the game. I think he probably would have won the game if he bottom decked the Bonclay over my Gordon Reducer.
Then round 4, you ended up going against a black-yellow Luffy. Now, talk to us about how this matchup goes. Who do you think this favors, and any crucial moments that you remember that happened during the match?
Yeah, so honestly, it was looking pretty tough. I just didn't see any Gordons. So obviously, you're gonna starve a black yellow Luffy player. Hope they can't get to 0 life by themselves. But just not being able to bottom deck his 5-cost Luffy was super obnoxious because he got to 0 pretty fast. Yeah, I just set up pretty well. I saw a lot of 5-cost blockers and Shuraiyas. I think I saw 1 or 2 Shuraiyas and I think a Bonclay and a Kid Killer. So I had enough gas to push cards out of his hand, and he didn't draw Moria. So yeah, went well. Yeah, surprised I won with no reducers though.
Yeah, and if you had any advice for the Red Purple Law players out there on how to pretty much navigate this matchup, what was kind of your summary advice to help them out there?
Yeah, you just gotta line your units up, never swing at them, force them to play cards to get their life down lower, which are mainly gonna be 2Ks you're gonna rip out of their hand themselves, Flampe, Yori, or even Makino. So just lining stuff up and then pushing all your swings into one turn is super crucial, just knocking cards out of hand. And yeah, Shuraiya is definitely the MVP though. Matching their leader swing is like super good.
And then we have round 5 against Sakazuki. Now, I've definitely had a lot of people express their opinion saying, oh, Red Purple Law is actually really good into Sakazuki, or Sakazuki is really good into Red Purple Law. Talk to us about actually who this really favors, how does the matchup actually go down, and any crucial points in this matchup.
Yeah, so for Sakazuki, they have to play like pretty much perfectly, make like a close game. So like if they're playing really well, I would call the matchup probably like 50-50. But most of the time, like there's not that many Sakazuki players that can like pivot or like map their way through the matchup that good. Right. I'd probably call it Red Purple Law favored in most scenarios. Yeah, you don't really need reducers, which is nice because you're just going to be bottom decking like brand news or Tashis for the most part. And hopefully you can just like end the game before Moria comes out. Moria is a big pain to deal with.
Okay, so you believe that in this matchup, Sakazuki actually has to, 1, draw perfectly or draw really, really good. And on top of that, to be a skill player to actually navigate the matchup and pivot in a certain way that puts them in a position where they can actually win. Otherwise, it seems like Red Purple Law just has mostly a higher percentage in this matchup.
Yeah, if they like misstep for one turn, they probably lose the game. Yeah.
And then round 6, you faced yet again another Sakazuki. So how did this matchup fare compared to the last one? Similar situation or anything different that you can kind of recollect?
I think this Saka was the one that like, kind of punted against me. He could have just went for game, AK with the Shiki, but he decided to play an Ama with like no cards left in hand after. Yeah, I was probably spoon-fed the win there. But he was a good player though. Probably the heat of the moment got to him.
Okay, so he felt like he was doing pretty good up until that point where he potentially, in your idea, pretty much he missed lethal, but he instead went for like, I guess, a safer play and just kind of punted.
Yeah, he just kind of gambled that I had no rushers in hand. I didn't play any the whole game, so that was like a big gamble to play.
And then round 7, yet again another Sakazuki. Now at this point you pretty much faced 2 already, so this would be your 3rd one. What's kind of like your mindset going into this? Do you still think you have that high percentage of winning? Was there anything different that happened in this matchup?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident in Saka in general. I think this one was like this. I think this one was pretty easy. I don't remember which one it was, but I believe this was the one he was playing maybe 3 cards a turn to clear my board. Because like obviously I'm playing like 2 units a turn, but then he's playing like a Suru, Helmeppo, and then into an Ama to full clear my board. And like that's so taxing on his hand. It's just like I'm just so ahead.
So you would say this one just pretty much came down to Saka just running out of gas, having to deal with you going wide constantly.
Yeah, he had no chance, I think, just burning that many cards a turn just to deal with 2 cards a month.
And then round 8, you finally win against the mirror match by Purple Law. Talk to us about the dice roll here, what pretty much happens going first or second, and just overall your thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, so you want to go second, obviously, like because you get to play a 4 cost turn 2 and do whatever. So yeah, I lost the dice roll. I ended up going first. I think I should have lost. I don't know if I should have lost, but I definitely felt behind most of the game. I think this was on stream. He played like 2 kid killers in 1 turn, so I felt like I just had no chance. But I somehow full cleared. I didn't full clear, but I cleared 2 kid killers with leader ability and swing at 1, which is like a super big pivotal moment. So yeah, this matchup definitely comes down to who draws better though. Like more Reijus and more kid killers. It's definitely the play. Yeah, I didn't really see that many Gordons either compared to my opponent. So it was kind of annoying. But yeah.
Yeah. So, and then when it comes to the mirror match, of course, and this is kind of for all mirror matches, whoever just sees more of what they need. Did you still have confidence, at least in your deck list? Do you believe that your deck list was just superior? Was it different enough for the ratios better? Were you kind of confident in just the deck list going into the matchup?
Yeah, I think so. I think my deck list, he was playing Choppers, which I don't think are that good for the mirror, and I'm playing Nico Robin, which I don't think he's playing for Miss All Sunday. And Miss All Sunday is really good in the mirror, just for the raw. Like resources are so low in that mirror match. So yeah, I think the deck list is just made better for the mirror. Yeah, he was a good player, I think. So okay. It is what it is.
And then your last round was against Moria. So talk to us about a little bit how this matchup goes in terms of the struggles, and was there any potential reasoning on maybe you got the win? Was it because you just drew better, crucial moment, or did you just have a lot of practice just against Gecko in general?
Yeah, I practice this matchup a lot. I think definitely it's like unfavored for Law, but like once you get the hang of it, it's not too hard. Winning the dice roll is obviously super important in this matchup. I won the dice roll, which was huge. But yeah, I think the most important part is just like you lose the second Moria comes out, like 8 cost. So you need to like develop 2 bodies a turn. So like when I was saying earlier, like Shachi Penguin is like super crucial in this matchup. Like that's why, because if you're not like maybe like turn 2 or 3 onwards, you have to use leader ability every turn and clear everything. Not clear everything, like clear most things. And yeah, just keep pushing face. And yeah, swinging 6k is the number to swing. It'd be kind of hard to explain why, but yeah, swinging 6k over 7k for majority of the game is just the way to go to beat Moria.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that, for any of the red purple laws that are kind of maybe struggling in this matchup as well, saying that it's not necessarily winnable, what are kind of like your, I guess, thoughts, opinions, and kind of tips for other red purple laws players to pretty much just overcome Moria?
Yeah, swing 6. That's the goal. Swing 6, spam leader ability. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Ignore board most of the time. Some scenarios you can swing at it if you couldn't clear a body one turn. But yeah, you need to go face, end the game before Moria comes out. Those are the main things.
Okay, gotcha. And then any last things and words and stuff you want to maybe mention at the end, any shouts and stuff?
And shout out to the boys in Houston, and shout out to Faye for giving me the deck basically. So yeah, I appreciate it.